Okay, welcome to the Good of the Whole connection field and the trust frequency embodied. I'm Connie Baxter Marlow,
I'm Andrew Cameron Bailey.
and we have Wowza Elisa Lodge here with us as well, who will be doing the embodied part of the process. And Andrew, there's Wowza.
Hello, Wowza.
There she is. And Andrew will start out with a meditation and for our heart and our spirit. Then we will give some information for our minds. And Wowza will come on and do an embodiment practice.
Bring it all down into our bodies.
So we're into coherence here, our fullness coherence for the good of the whole of each of us, so that we can go out into the whole and transform it with our vibratory level. And we are working with our fourth assumption today, which is that there are 7 A's of our consciousness, 7 aspects of our consciousness that begin with A, that can transform our reality and our vibratory level. So we will get into that after Andrew does his meditation. So if everybody can mute while we go on with a meditation, everybody who's not speaking can mute. That would be good. And we'll go from there.
So here we go. Hello, friends. So let's just sit in the peace and the silence and let everything drop away, all the turbulence in the world outside. We're just going to let that go, and we're going to the deep inner silence where all is well, where all is safe, where we can truly let go of all these temporal things that are going on in our lives, that are going on in the world out there, knowing that they'll be there when we come back. It's highly unlikely that we're going to achieve total enlightenment in 10 minutes, but we will go somewhere else for these 10 minutes. The focus of this entire series is consciousness. What is consciousness? How do we experience consciousness? How can we raise our consciousness? Those questions underlie and overarch this entire exercise that we're participating in together. So today we are we're at the center point of the series, and we're specifically focusing on consciousness, on the nature of consciousness, and what that means. And let me just say that science has had a real problem with the subject of consciousness. Science has had the most amazing difficulty even acknowledging its existence in a scientific way. And yet it is the only thing that any human being has ever experienced. The only thing we experience is our consciousness. So this is what we're doing, friends. We're sitting quietly, our spines erect, and we'll take a few deep centering breaths together and ask ourselves, what does it mean to be conscious? What does it feel like to be conscious? And what are the, shall we say, the levels of consciousness? Can we raise our consciousness intentionally? And what does that do when we do that? So let us take a gentle, deep, cleansing breath and inhale. And let it go. And once again, breathe in. And let it go. And last time, inhale. And let it go. And as we let it go, let everything else go. Let any thought, any discomfort, any concern, let it simply dissolve. How does this feel? These 3 breaths are one of many techniques to bring us into the present moment, to bring us into an awareness of our own consciousness. Consciousness is awareness. Awareness is consciousness. The first word in the English language that describes consciousness is awareness. So here we are, aware. I'm aware of the temperature. It's a beautiful, warm day here in Colorado. I'm comfortable. I can hear some birds outside. And another part of my consciousness knows that there is much that is going on beyond what I can sense with my senses, beyond sight and sound and feeling and sensation. I know that I am a member of a species. I am living on a planet. All of that is a possible focus of my consciousness. I can put my attention anywhere I choose to put my attention. I can put my attention on the other side of the moon if I so choose, simply by thinking it. Consciousness is extraordinary. The power of our consciousness, the literally countless abilities of our consciousness. And yet science has not been able to describe it. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that we experience consciousness. And once we truly become conscious at the highest level, we find something else going on. And it doesn't begin with the letter A, it begins with the letter L. It is love. Those of you who have been with us through this entire series know that we live in a conscious, loving universe. This universe, this experience that we are having of being sentient beings in a conscious, loving universe. This is, in fact, an experience of love. We are created by love. We are sustained by love. We are held and supported by love. So for me, one of the most beautiful aspects of meditation or a shamanic journey is the fact that I and we can go anywhere we choose through the power of our individual minds, which are not separate from the one mind. There's really only one mind, and yet each of us at our perceived individual personal center is a mind, a conscious entity, and yet we are part of a single unified whole. And that single unified whole consists entirely of love. Love with a capital L. Love that is far beyond anything to do with human emotions. Much as we may love each other, much as we may love our planet, it's far beyond that, because it's in fact a quantum power, a quantum force. It is actually the fundamental creative power of the universe. So let us sit for a few more seconds in this beautiful, gentle, supportive, safe place of boundless love. And when you are ready, come back into your body. If you've left your body, come back into the room. Take a deep, joyful, cleansing breath. And open your eyes. And here we are together again. Thank you.
And as we feel that love of the universe, we have to understand that it loves us so much that it gives us everything we ask for. And that's what our fourth assumption is about our requests to that conscious, loving universe. So there's two ways of looking at it. There's the way of looking at the responsive, loving universe to our requests. And then there's the way of looking at it through physics, that it's about vibration and frequency, that in fact, these requests, what we're calling the 7 aspects of our consciousness, determine our frequency, our vibratory level. So it's pure physics. So there's just depends which side of one's brain one wants to look at it from, as far as what determines our reality. And so what we want to do in this few minutes that we have now is talk about these 7 aspects of our consciousness. And Andrew went into a couple of them in the meditation, and there are a few more. So let's have a look at the 7 A's of consciousness. And they are awareness, our awareness, what we let into our understanding, what level of awareness we're at. And the second one is assumptions. What are our assumptions about the nature of the universe? This is fundamental. Our core assumptions about the nature of the universe and our place in it are fundamental to everything we do, say, and think. So this is very important to have an understanding of how important our very core beliefs and assumptions are. Another one is our attitude. What is our attitude about what happens in our lives, which derives from our assumptions? Another one is our attention. What do we put our attention on? This is so important because quantum physics has shown us that we create what we put our attention on. The observer actually turns an energetic wave into a particle, meaning we create this whole reality with where we put our attention. What frequency we're going to put our attention on, what frequency it's in, and then where we actually create what we think is real. And this is the loving universe responding to us. Where we put our attention, what we think, it gives it to us. So the next one is our alignment. What are we aligned with? Are we aligned with our highest inner promptings? Or are we aligned with what we read in the paper, what other people say, what other people say about us, what other people say about the nature of the universe, what other people say about what we have to do to survive? It's a very big deal. All these 7As are a very big deal for us to really look deeply at. And the next one is action. What action do we take? Do we align with our highest inner promptings and take action from that place? All those other A's influence our action. And the action is the kicker. That's the tough one, to act from that place of alignment with our hearts, our spirits, the universe, what the universe is telling us, talking to us through circumstance. And we get into that later in our other assumptions. And then there's allowing. Do we, in fact, ultimately trust enough to allow the loving universe to bring us more than we can fathom? It's a tough order. So do you have something you want to add to that? All those 7As, Andrew?
So it may be obvious to you, or it may not. It's obvious to me that I wrote the book and so on. So this has been so instilled in me for decades now. This is actually our operating system. So this is how conscious, we are conscious beings. And we've taken 7 aspects of our individual consciousness as we experience and perceive them. And if you look at them, about half of them are, what's the word? Active. Where I place my attention is an action. The action I take if I decide to get up and walk out of the room and go get a glass of water, that's an action. These are active aspects of our consciousness. And we have more passive aspects that condition our actions, that condition our decisions to put our attention on something in particular. And those things are filtered very much through our assumptions and through our attitudes. Profoundly important ways of understanding ourselves, who we are in this present moment, how we came to be who we are right now. And we may be totally satisfied with that, and that's fine. And we may not. We may be completely astonished to discover that we have attitudes and assumptions that we'd never even thought about because we got them as little kids from our parents and our teachers and our ministers and our friends at school and television and what have you. Most of us, I believe, have an enormous number of unexamined assumptions. And so this whole process is, to a large degree, about asking ourselves that question: what do I believe? It's literally, what is my worldview? What are my fundamental assumptions about the nature of the universe? which from a mechanics of the universe point of view is the question, how does the universe work? I'm a part of this universe. Somebody said it's a conscious, loving universe, and I'm an integral part of that. Whoa. So how do I use that? How do I understand that? How do I put that to work for myself and my family and my loved ones and the rest of my species and for our beloved endangered planet? So this is about awakening, which is another A that you could add to this list. That's a sort of overarching one.
And what this does, this understanding does, is it gives us an enormous responsibility. Because once we understand what leading edge science is proving, it's absolute proof from quantum physics and unified physics that we do create our reality. Okay, we have created this reality that we live in. And I feel we have been responding to a lower frequency of energy for the last millennia, all races, all people, and we've put in place systems based on that lower frequency of energy that we've been responding to. So there's nothing intrinsic in the human that has us being greedy, being hateful, being afraid of the other, because we've been in a reality that says that's true, because that frequency has been a lower frequency. Well, the earth is moving into a higher frequency now, and there's a new energy available on the planet now that allows us to see and feel from a higher perspective. And that's why the systems are breaking down, so that we can no longer see them as the only game in town, because the universe has to give us what we think, because it loves us, and it's a vibration. So if we stay in that lower vibration and keep thinking those systems are real and it's the only thing that can be, then we have to fight hard to do that now, because what wants to be born through this new energy and this new frequency is something we can't even fathom from this conditioned mind in this lower frequency. So I just want to emphasize that, like Barbara Marx Hubbard said, we're giving birth to a new humanity, a new species. Well, it's a new aspect. It's us moving into our human potential, what we came here to do and be. Loving beings, manifesting divinity on planet Earth through the physical. So we want to give you a sentence that encapsulates these 7 A's in one sentence, so that it's easy to remember the 7 A's. Okay, so here it is. And we're actually going to put it up on our screen so that you can see it. So let's see if we can find it. Yeah, we'll put it up on our screen. Where'd it go? There it is. Oops, hiding. Here it is. So then how do we get back to sharing the screen? Here we are.
First, you need to fill the screen with that.
With that, but then that disappears, see? So let's see. Okay, here we go. We're going to share screen. We're going to pull this up. How's that? Do you see?
Haven't shared it yet.
Oh, I haven't shared it. Okay, here we go. Can you see it? So here is the sentence. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams. So that's our gift for this assumption. And now we want to turn it over to Wowza.
Can I say one very quick
Yep.
thing?
Would you
So-
leave that on the screen a little longer? I'm trying to copy it down.
Sure.
Oh, we can now,
What we'll do is
we'll email it to you, Don. Is that okay?
we'll put it in the
Oh,
chat.
we'll put it in the chat.
That's fine.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say that that sentence is the perfect operating manual for a vision of ourselves as caterpillars in the metamorphosis process as we move in the direction of becoming the beautiful butterflies that we have in our potential. And if we can take those 7 A's and integrate them into the way we actually operate, it's like an operating system, it's like an operating system upgrade. I just wanted to drop that in there. And wowza, hello there.
And we can check those 7 A's any time of the day or night, just
Right.
standing in the grocery line, whatever, we can check those 7 A's. Where's my attention? What am I aligned with? So here we go, Wowza. Take it away, girl.
Hey. Well, while you were talking, in my book, I have one of Barbara's quotes, and I think it would set off what we're about. And she says, becoming universal humans, fluid bodies will be essential in this radically new environment. Nature always reinvents whole bodies for a new consciousness.
Yay.
And I feel that's definitely what I'm about. And as I started last week, with wait a minute, to make sure we have our feet on the ground and we can open up our eyes to even become aware that we're present. And I've added a couple of words, another phrase to aware with 2 A's, which is alert, awake, aware. And there's a way of saying it too, where the first alert, maybe you can all do it. And if you could even take your hand, it's like a little bit of a musical conductor. Alert. Can you just see, how a musical conductor, okay. The orchestra, alert, awake, aware. And as you play with the aware, feel again that you are diffusing your awareness beyond skin encapsulated ego. And you're moving it further and further out. Above you, beside you, and down into the planet. And of just making this circle, raising your hands right up your spinal column. Can I see your hands rising above your spinal? And again, out to the top of your head, aware. And this awareness into this diffused peripheral vision is a beautiful metaphor for our wholeness. And when it's slightly whispered with life force, it's like alert, awake, aware. So you're expanding your life force breath further and further out to the cosmos. And then this is beautiful too, of drawing all of this extraordinary potential of our wholeness back into our mind, our hearts, our gut level intuitive knowing, and running it through our legs, down our feet. To be aware. Whew. And with this assumption, there's a really big assumption about the body that I feel is absolutely pertinent, that for thousands of years, and you know, Andrew, going with the bush people in Africa, that these ancient cultures all had waveforms in their movement. Their speech had waveforms. It was a little more sing-songy. Their gestures and the idea that the serpentine energies, and if you could take your hand like this for a moment and draw a figure 8 very lightly over your forehead. First of all, the serpentine motions, which is the original, the serpentine motions is birth. The serpentine motions is creation. And what we're using, these figure 8 motions, balancing left and right hemispheres of your brain. All duality is a yin-yang pulsation that keeps our whole blooming body together. And so you can run these serpentine energies first, just through your spinal column. That's one thing. And really notice how, if you want to control a lot of people in their bodies and make them a little doubtful about moving one way or another, keep them very straight. Stop the wiggling, sit still, behave, listen to the authority, and don't talk back to the authority. It's all standing to attention, of a different kind of attention that is programmed. You can hear it in my voice. This is head-centric. Nothing wrong, but we need it. But without the feminine waveform, without the fluidity of being, it's harder to move. It's harder to make decisions. We are coming from thought forms rather than from a resurgence of what we've always known, which is who we truly are. Children don't have to think every moment of what they're going to say. It comes flowing out naturally. And as you see, my whole body is creating what my words are saying. I feel we are moving again into a new world in which the body language needs to be more expressive of our words, because a lot of people now are not going to understand English. This world's getting smaller. So after we open up this awareness of living larger than we ever thought possible, and really beginning to see assumptions like, boy, when I'm sitting straight-laced and my talk is coming out like a computer's, I have to go, wait a minute. Got it. Okay, thank you very much, head-centric world. Now, see, the moment that fluidity, the wave force motion comes in there, I can also see how I disturb it by holding down, holding back, not ready, holding out, for the right moment, whatever it is, or holding up, I'm above it all. All of these different styles of behavior, when we can slow down enough and pay attention. Oh, hi. See, rather than the judgments, you get to know, oh yeah, I can track more in. Oh yes, I square off and I'm straight and narrow, and by God, this is the way it is. Hello. These are different styles of behavior believed to be who we truly are. They're not. They are maskings to protect and defend us. So this idea of attitude, the attitude, again, like I was taught to be nice. So I have like a little sweet attitude, but it's very difficult to say no. It's only, see, it's a filter that blocks out a whole group of colorings that I don't get to use. Another one is, act strong. And you see, for so many men, they've put on a posture of great muscular strength. The only thing when they come home to their wife and she brings out the champagne or something, if they're still in their business as usual mode, very difficult to soften enough and be in a more romantic mode. And we could go on and on. We don't have too much time, but in the alignment, paying attention to the axis mundi. See, the axis mundi, some of these universal laws now are so incredibly powerful, because with axis mundi, it's like the gravitational pull. That belly is in alignment. See, when I start to slump into my casual stances, how cool am I, or how straight and strong, I'm missing out on, again, that I can come forward, I can move back, I can expand, I can contract. I've got all the colors of the rainbow in fluidity. So this idea of taking action, and with any of these words, like, again, taking awareness, affirmations, when you bring in the waveform of it with intention, like, alert, awake, aware. I could do it in a billion different ways through the wave. Alert, awake, aware. Come on, baby, alert, awake, aware. We can do this, which is take action, do it, but we're bringing the feelings into it. And it is the feeling tones coupled with intention of the universe. Bring it to us, lay it on, universe. This is my intention. I am with you all the way. All the assumptions are moved aside. And here I am open to receive. I want to bring my legacy out into the world. And I so join you in co-creation as universal beings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're all here together to do this.
Yeah,
All right,
wonderful.
wowza, wow. So we can all join the AAA. Tell me the AAA again.
Alert, awake, aware.
Yes, that's a whole different concept, isn't it? Thank you for that.
Boing.
More A's for the process.
There we go.
Lots of A's. Lots of A's. Appreciate.
Yeah,
Accept.
exactly.
Yeah, there are many A's, and so there's so many positive A's. Is there something about the letter A that makes the
Well, the
word
great alive.
alive?
Light, God, love, it's all
Okay, yeah.
And in just the I'm alive, awake, aware, all of those, see, immediately take you out of the box. And then it's getting used to it out here too.
It's great to join you in this process.
Yay, it's so fun.
Awake, aware, allow.
Thank you, Wowza.
Thank you,
That was
Wowza.
just beautiful. So we've got another about 10 minutes, and let's open it up. If there's anyone who would like to either comment or have a question or a contribution to the conversation, we'd love that. Connie, did you put the sentence in the chat?
Not yet,
Let's do that.
but I
Let's
can
not forget
email.
that.
I can email Dawn, but I
Yes.
can put it in the chat. But meanwhile, Dawn, do you have any thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, thank you. Yes, I have a lot of thoughts. First, thank you for your description, and again for your energy. As I always say, Wowza has chronic enthusiasm, and you
Yep.
can't go wrong as long as you have chronic enthusiasm. But yes, my area of interest and expertise comes from Einstein and my professor, who was one of the world experts in the cause of war and the cause of peace. So the question that I raised from what you described is, now, what is the action step, though? It's the assumptions that we make. How do you translate that into action, we've got a world right now that's falling apart. We all agree that we've got great problems here now with riots, and we're not attending too well to diseases. You know, we could have prevented some of our deaths from disease if we only did a little prevention. Uh, so we've got to take action that brings millions of people into the fold. And now, so my question to you is, how do you see this happening? That, you know, I think Barbara did tell us that we, at the end, I mean, her initial idea was we're going to get insight from aliens. I think that was one of her ideas. Then later she had the idea that we need to have small groups. We had to wake people up with small groups. So we need to transition from knowledge to what we know to what we do. All that we know without action is lame. You know, unless we do something to change things. So that's what I'm raising for your discussion here. I think the idea that we have to focus on things, we don't really think much about what we can do to create world peace. We don't talk about it. You know, none of the gurus, Jack Canfield and you know, other people, you know, who are selling millions of books, they're getting lots of audience, but they're not talking at all about world peace. We do know that, as you said, when you focus our attention, when you direct your attention to something, that's the way we have to solve problems. You know, when Kennedy told us we're going to send a man to the moon, people said, "You're crazy. How could we send a man to the moon?" But because we focused attention on it, we spent thousands of man hours and time and money, and we did it. And when Einstein said we have a formula that can create nuclear weapons, who would have ever thought we could create enough weapons that one person could push a button that would destroy all civilization as we know it in minutes? But because 9 countries directed their attention, and now we do it. Now 9 countries have 14,000 of these weapons, and there's a professor at Harvard, Elaine Scarry, who says 3% of these is all it takes to wipe out civilization. And we have more than that in submarines. So that's the question I'm asking for you. You know, do you have some thoughts, further discussion about what are the next steps? What are the action steps in your perspective?
You want to pick it up?
Well, Ariana, do you have anything? Oriana, do you have a thought on that?
Or
did you raise your hand?
A thought in general. John, we
No,
will.
I was more interested in your response. So
Okay.
I wanted to mention, and Connie will speak, I'd like to give Marion Williamson's perspective from the protest in Washington, D.C. on Saturday. Marion Williamson was present, and are you aware of that? And did you see her report on that?
No.
And we're part of, we have this thing that happens on Saturday nights that we are part of, and she's part of. So she came directly actually reported from Washington.
I'm sorry I missed that. I do follow Marianne Williamson, though.
And
Okay.
what she saw was that we are taking that leap from that the violence was temporary, it was an important catalyst to a higher level of emergent behavior.
Mhm.
And that was boots on the ground in Washington, what she saw, felt. So it's important as we we understand how the universe works, that we put our attention, we don't hold our attention on to what's leaving, the behaviors that were a part of what was, and we focus our attention on what's being born. It's so tempting to put our attention on what's been, and it's just key.
Was that what Marion saw happening on
Yeah.
boots on the ground on Saturday?
Yeah.
My impression, just to express that, is that she really sensed a spiritual emergence coming from this crisis. Crisis is actually, it's almost essential. We need crisis to get us off our butts, to trigger change, to trigger actual change, and trigger actual action and choice. So Don, you're absolutely right. We're in a very in a dangerous moment on a dangerous planet. I absolutely agree with you. And the only thing we can do is wake up and trust that we are going to wake up in time. And that's the essence of what we're talking about here is trusting the process. Sometimes these darkest days are very difficult to summon up that inner trust and that faith, if you will, that confidence that this too shall pass. We're evolving. How does the caterpillar feel as it dissolves? And yet we know it doesn't, but we know that it's metamorphosing into a higher form.
And I'll tell you, my worldview, for me, absolutely, there's only the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. Everything serves that. Absolutely. This is my worldview. And this is the trust frequency book that we've written. It is to have something one knows to be true and trusts that and aligns that with that. So whenever I see anything, I say, okay, how is this serving the coming of peace on earth? So it's one's attitude, it's one's attention, it's one's awareness. Okay, those are the ways out. The only way out is up to a higher consciousness. And it's so key that when we have a new scientific paradigm that's emerged through Einstein and then quantum science, and now Nassim Haramein with unified physics, Jude Currivan with her physics, I'll tell you, we must pay attention to these leading edge scientists that will allow our mind to say, okay, I can align with my heart. I know that every thought I have, everything I do affects the collective. I am powerful and I have a responsibility to keep my focus there, my 7 A's of consciousness. So that's all we can say.
And I can just say that we're talking about trust, and the opposite of trust is fear. And if we allow fear to dominate our attention and our focus and our spirits, we're in trouble. And to transcend that and to just elevate our vibratory level, because fear is a lower vibration, a lower frequency. If we can raise ourselves individually and collectively into a higher space and trust the process, going through the tough stuff as well.
Yes, Ariana.
Here we are.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a visual of what you're speaking to, which is when a race car driver is coming up to a very tight corner very fast. They don't focus on the wall fast approaching. They know it's there, they know it's coming, but they're not focused on that wall. They're focused on the turn already being made, right? Which is exactly what you're talking about. Trust that we turn that corner. Whereas Barbara talked about, we turn that wheel. And what I found is how to enter it from the hub of the wheel and make that turn, that shift.
That's
and
a good metaphor, yeah.
That's what's important, is that it's always, it's not, oh, here comes the wall, we gotta do something, but that it's, yeah, and look where we're going, because that's the future that's drawing us into being in alignment with that which is meant to be.
That's right. That's it. The race car driver is tenaciously focused on the goal, which is beyond the turn. He's already half a mile down the road.
Drawing him forward.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to understand, that there's a future pulling us now, not a past that's driving us into repetition. It's a future that has yet to be. So I think we have to bow out now. And Wowza, please.
Just one real quick thing, just again, not leaving out this inner universe called body. But I've been working with so many people lately that are speaking a mile a minute. You know, it's just a habit. It's an assumption that if I don't get it all out, it'll never come out. And we're moving towards peace. I don't quite think so. So this idea of, for instance, I mean, just the fact of savoring and relishing our words, that they land, that they travel into each other's hearts. See, the slowing down, the being of the peace, the being of peace. Yes, we've got to be peaceful. You know? It doesn't quite work. So the body mind connection here, here.
Thank
For
you.
coming
Wowza,
into
thank
that
you.
unity.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to end now because there's a very
Yeah, Shelley is.
and Shelley just arrived. Hey, Shelley. So I am going to end the, so thank you, everybody. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And we'll see you
Yes.
next week.
See you next week for the assumption number 5. So,
And I just want to, and thank you so much. How beautiful. I just want to invite people to stay on, that we have a very special guest and host, Reuben George with Chief Phil Lane Jr. and special guest Winona LaDuke are with us tonight. And we'll be starting that coming up in just a few minutes. We'll be back on Facebook Live. Thank you.
Nice. Thank
Thank
you.
you.